Welcome, everyone, to the October 24th, 2022 Grafton Board of Health meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is Karen Gwiazdowski-Govan, Chair of the Board of Health. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Finn.
Dan Finn here.
Austin Magnet.
Austin Magnan's here.
All right. And Jen Maynard.
Jen Maynard here.
All right, staff and anticipated speakers on the agenda. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. I know Nancy will not make it tonight. Julie Van Arselen from the Alliance.
Affirmative.
I don't see Amelia yet. No, not yet. Or Melissa yet. Alyssa Rede.
Here.
All right, and I don't see Harvey yet as the potential alt rep for Tufts. So we will proceed, and when they join, or if they join, we can speak with them then. All right, I'd like to open the meeting. Can I get a motion to open the meeting?
Yep, this is Dan Finn. I'd like to make a motion to open this meeting.
Is there a second?
This is Austin Magnan. I'll second the motion.
All right, and then roll call vote.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan, aye.
Jen Maynard, aye.
Karen Gwiazdowski-Govan, aye. Good evening once again. This open meeting of the Grafton Board of Health is being conducted remotely, consistent with the Act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension now until March 31st, 2023 of the remote meeting provisions of Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the act extends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted at the town's website at www.grafton-mass.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening's meeting. For this meeting, the Grafton Board of Health is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note the meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that you take care not to screen share your computer, because as we all know by now, anything that you broadcast can be captured by the recording. Any supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Before I turn to the first item on the agenda, allow me just to cover a few basic ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes are generated. I will introduce any speakers on the agenda for a topic. After they conclude any remarks, I'll invite the board members, if there's any questions or comments, etc. As always, please identify yourself by name when speaking. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Finally, any votes on any motions made during this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right, with that, let us turn to the first topic on the agenda, which is the Alliance updates. Julie?
Hi. So I'm going to do the environmental health update. So some of the inspections, I believe, were all emailed over to everybody, but Title V inspection reports that were submitted were 3 Whitney Street, 37 Valley View, 150 Upton Street, 7 Stockwell Farm Road, 136 North Street. And then we still have some general complaints from September, which was fridges that were out in somebody's property, no running water, cesspool overflowing, and debris and trash on another property. I closed the complaint regarding the refrigerators and freezers. I followed up on the complaint regarding the overflow cesspool, which was not valid, and spoke to an occupant in the single family dwelling. And then also garbage, debris, and trash. That was a valid complaint. The only thing that's left on the property is trees. They're actually cutting up the wood on that, but all the other items have been addressed. Food inspections, Crossroads Nutrition, First Bite Cafe, the Food Bank, Grafton Grill, Millbury Street Elementary School, Pub 122, South Grafton Elementary, Village Dairy, Congregational Church, and Reunion Tap and Table. Eyewitness soil testing at 103 George Hill Road. Some of the septic inspections were 76 Old Upton Road, 4 Flynn Way, 146 Pleasant, 57 Browns Road, which was a component replacement. The others were actually septic installs. Septic plans that I reviewed, 17 Brigham Hill Road, 8 Hudson Ave, 2 Libby Lane, 4 Libby Lane, 20 Libby Lane, 22 Libby Lane, 24 Libby Lane, 14 Donahue Lane. Certificates of compliance that were issued, I reviewed the as-built as well as signed off on the COCs for 64 Brigham Hill and 146 Pleasant. And then well results, water quality tests and completion reports review for 33 Browns Road, for Indian Path. And, the other, work that we do that's really not noted is reviewing any building permits in OpenGov, which I have done quite a few. And that's what I have. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Dan?
Julie, whereabouts is Libby Lane? That must be a new development or something, right?
Yep, that is. There's 39 lots going in. I can't think of the name of the road it's off of, but I know how to drive there.
Yeah, is it
It's
up
on my
going
way to all the other. It's like
going to Tufts up in that neighborhood or no?
I go I think it's 140, and then I take I can't tell you, but I know exactly how to get there.
Yeah.
But there's 39 lots, and it runs from Grafton to West Boylston.
Oh,
I will be getting at least, I'm assuming, a good amount coming through in the next couple of weeks as well. The designs have already been completed, and they just have to submit some more for me. The first series that were submitted are all on town water. I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the others will be well. I'm not 100%, but I believe that they may be. But it's they're working and cutting the road in, and they're doing a lot of work up there right now.
is it mostly the same septic company that's doing the
The same engineer, and they will be. I know the developer, and he uses the same person
Yeah.
throughout to do the installs.
Thanks.
It should be pretty seamless.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Julie? All right, well, if there's nothing else, then thank you, Julie, again. We appreciate it. Then we will jump over to Amelia, and I'm guessing that's Melissa with Amelia.
Here we go. Hi, everyone.
Hi there.
Hi.
So this is Melissa. She just joined a couple of weeks ago. And she is the new regional public health nurse. So she will be the Grafton nurse. And just to let you know what we have going on, we've already set up blood pressure clinics with the Housing Authority and the Senior Center. I can send that to whomever. And we have flu clinics at the middle school and high school this week. And then we plan on a clinic at the Millbury School next month, a flu clinic, that is. And that's, for now, tip of the iceberg.
I'm excited to get started.
We're happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're probably gonna jump off around 7. We have another call, but I just wanted you guys to meet her, and she will probably be participating in future meetings or as needed, either way. Okay.
Thank you for the update. Any questions, board members, for either Amelia or Melissa?
Welcome.
Thanks. I'm sure we'll all meet.
Oh, yeah.
for the
Yes.
job.
For sure. So,
All right. Well, we appreciate it, and nice to meet you again. And thank you for joining. And thank you, obviously, for the work you're doing with the flu clinics and the blood pressure clinics and everything. No, we greatly appreciate that. Speaking on behalf of the town and the folks that you're helping out in town with that.
well, Jackie Davis is wonderful to work with, and we met Shannon, and she seems wonderful to everybody is, so. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next topic we have is COVID. Cases, vaccines, any mitigation efforts. The latest counts we have from the weekly reporting as of October 14th, Grafton's been informed of a total of 3,905 confirmed positive COVID cases since case tracking started back earlier in 2020. As we all know, at this point, there's a high likelihood that there are many more cases actually happening in the community, but people aren't notifying healthcare professionals or the Board of Health if they're taking an at-home type of test. So just a reminder that although that's the official number that's been reported, as we all know by this point in time, there's probably many more. So if I think last week was 11 total, so chances are you're talking probably at least, double that, if not more than that. We're obviously keeping an eye as a Board of Health and the Alliance on the ongoing Omicron variant. And now we have the new XBB variant that's starting to show up in the US and many other countries. And there's definitely concerns being voiced by epidemiologists, healthcare professionals, et cetera, that the XBB variant may be the worst one yet, potentially. It's still early on in terms of being able to evade immunity and, its contagiousness, but I'm sure we'll hear more to come on that as it probably picks up steam as it circles the world. So just something to keep in mind, along with the fact that we are getting to the colder weather. People are talking about triple-demic or tridemic. I've heard a couple different ways of talking about it, where we have COVID still, the concerns that we're going to have potentially this worse variant starting to circulate more. Flu season, they're predicting a definitely worse flu season than in the past couple of years. They're predicting an earlier flu season based on what Australia was seeing. So a reminder now, I'll probably plug it again, get a flu shot for anyone who's watching on the public side of the world. They're still available now, is still a good time to get it to provide a lasting protection throughout what would be the typical flu season. Everyone's got them, whether it be CVS, Walgreens, et cetera. So they're easy to find nowadays compared to back in the day when there were limited locations that could do it. And then also the other part of the triple-demic or tridemic is respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, that they're talking about. That typically is seen in younger kids, but it also can cause issues in the elderly, immunocompromised population, et cetera. So it sounds like we could be in for a nasty season coming through this winter in terms of what might be out there for respiratory related illnesses. So everyone just do everything possible to protect yourselves and your loved ones in terms of flu, COVID, RSV. That being said, as we all know by now, the bivalent boosters are out there for COVID. That's
Hey,
recommended.
Karen.
Yep.
We give the bivalent booster every Wednesday at the Worcester Public Library. We bring all the COVID vaccines, but we do have that one as well.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Because I know even when I was looking for it, there was not as much, maybe because I was thinking like back when prior boosters and stuff, like where you could just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and get a booster this afternoon at CVS or Walgreens, and there was plenty of spots. I noticed definitely it seemed like less availability for spots. I don't know if that was because more people hopefully are trying to get the boosters right now, or it just happens to be a more limited supply. But I know I had to do a little bit of more searching than I expected to when I was trying to get an appointment, especially on a weekend. So
There is limited supply of one of them, of the Moderna, more than
Okay.
Pfizer. So that does make sense if you're given a choice.
So yeah, no, good to know. And good to know about the clinic happening each week too. So yeah, we strongly as a board continue to recommend, obviously, if you haven't gotten the initial series, get the initial series. If you can, get your bivalent booster if you're eligible. I know that there is that 2-month window that you have to wait, but if you're eligible, definitely recommend getting it sooner than later because it's not going away and it adds some additional protection for you. And then, like I've been doing in each meeting, instead of going through all the different vaccine options and booster versus initial series, and if you're a child versus a younger child versus an adult, Moderna versus Pfizer, we always recommend going to the CDC's website. They have a very comprehensive website, and so does the state. So that way it is the easiest resource to point towards. So that way, rather than trying to describe on camera the latest and greatest version or updates and making sure not to miss anything. So that's where we typically will point people towards. And then obviously, I've seen more people starting to wear masks, it seems, again, depending on the location, but in more crowded areas. So, you know, if someone is elderly, immunocompromised, or at a higher risk situation, would definitely recommend being cautious, taking precautions above and beyond just getting the vaccinated status, because as we all know, the vaccine's not going to prevent you from getting it. It's just going to hopefully prevent you from becoming severely ill or hospitalized. So definitely recommend continuing to take precautions for yourself and loved ones around you and family and friends. Anything else to add around COVID? Questions? Anyone? All right. Let's see. Next, we have, actually, I'm going to jump over the meeting dates since we can discuss that after the fact, and folks don't need to stick around for us to figure out what meeting dates are going to be. All right. Since I'm sure everyone is busy and has other things, I know Amelia and Melissa have to run at 7 o'clock anyways. All right, next topic after the meeting dates was recommend appointing Alyssa as the ex officio voting, non-voting primary member to the Tufts IBC. That is a mouthful. And just a little background for the board members. If you remember during our September meeting, we had discussed the alternate community representative to the Tufts IBC. And there was some definite discussion afterwards. I know Nancy was involved, Alyssa was involved, Tufts was involved, because there were questions coming out of all of this with all these different roles, since we're talking about 3 different roles on the Tufts IBC this evening, as to what Alyssa's role that she had been serving, what, you know, an alternate community rep versus the ex officio non-voting primary member. And so it came out of all of that back and forth discussion with Tufts and Nancy and Alyssa that it's actually the ex officio non-voting primary member that we should have been talking about in the first place back at the September meeting for Alyssa. So that's why we're talking about it tonight. So all that being said, as a reminder for whether it be this position or the other 2 positions that we're talking about with the IBC, we as a Board of Health, we recommend an individual to the position on the IBC, but then ultimately the select board is the one who does the actual appointing of the individuals. That's the process. So I guess pretty much the steps we need to take for these are really, you know, like last time, even though it was technically a different role we were talking about, there's a motion, there's a second, there's a roll call vote. Obviously, before we get to that, I wanted to open it up to any board members. Alyssa, any comments, questions? Did I get that straight, Alyssa? Because I wasn't directly involved in all of the figuring out of what role we were supposed to actually be talking about in the first place.
Yes, you did get it correct. Thank you. And there was confusion. I think part of it was because Colleen previously was helping out by serving as a community rep while Grafton was looking for one. So that's why there was confusion whether or not I would be stepping into that role. But really what I'm doing is moving. I was already the alternate for the ex officio. And so now with Colleen's departure, it would just be moving me into that role, the primary role. And then Brendan, who is the chief of community health. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to meet him yet. He could serve as the alternate. And then I guess my other question would just be for all of you, assuming this moves forward like that. Did Colleen provide you with monthly updates? Would she just fill you in when, you know, there was something that she thought you should be aware of? And you don't need to let me know tonight, but even let Nancy know, however you'd like me to keep you in the loop on that.
I mean, usually with that, usually it was updates knowing that it may not be always monthly, but just anything that had come through, anything of concern, you know, maybe I forgot now how frequently, even like every few months, just like a general kind of update, because we know that obviously there's not going to be something, you know, newsworthy, shall we say, every single time the IBC meets, which I guess is a good thing. So yeah, so I mean, obviously, if there is something what one would classify as newsworthy, then we'd want to know that sooner than later if it happened, you know. But other than that, I think it was like every 3 months or so during like an alliance update or something, you know, it would get mentioned like, oh, we met, you know, nothing has changed, status quo, or we talked to whatever. You know, if there was talks of, I don't know, updating a manual or something, it would be brought up then, because that's not something that would be major news.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And I do also attend the GMA meetings. So I know there's been talk about possibly doing an exercise between the two. So if that does end up coming to fruition, I'll keep you in the loop on that.
All right.
Also.
That's good to know. Dan?
Yeah, so Alyssa, thank you for your prior service, and because you've been doing it for a while, I believe, right? You've been on the committee for what, 8 years or something?
As the alternate for a while, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I guess at this point, I'd like to make a motion to recommend appointing Alyssa, and excuse me, Aridi, how do you pronounce your last name?
Be ready.
Aridi, thank you. As the ex officio non-voting primary member to the Tufts IBC.
There a second?
This is Austin Magnan. I will second that nomination to appoint Alyssa.
All right, and then roll call vote.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan, aye.
Jen Maynard, aye.
Karen Gwiazdowski Govan, aye. All right, thank you, everyone. And I'll give Nancy an update once the meeting is done on all 3 of these IBC positions. So then she can communicate that to the select board side of the world. So we can keep the process rolling. Well, thank you again, Alyssa. Thank you for all the previous service, and hopefully, you know, the next steps in the process go smoothly. All right. Next, I know Brendan sent a note over that he had a conflict that he couldn't make it. But I know he had sent over, and I think Nancy had forwarded also his resume and stuff because we hadn't had a chance to meet with him yet. So the next topic is recommending appointing Brendan Keenan from the Alliance as the alternate ex officio non-voting primary member to the Tufts IBC. And so we have the reason why we're talking about this one now, as Alyssa mentioned, confirming my understanding of everything that had transpired. So I guess, does anyone have any questions from the board side of the world around Brendan, et cetera, that anyone who's worked with him, whether it be Alyssa, et cetera, could answer possibly before we discuss? Dan?
No, I don't have any questions. I just think his resume looks great. He's clearly very committed, a committed individual. And I guess at this point, I'd like to recommend appointing Brendan Keenan as the alternate ex officio non-voting member to the Tufts IBC.
Is there a second?
This is Austin. I will second that nomination to appoint Brendan as the, not the primary, was he the secondary member?
The alternate. Yep.
Alternate.
All right.
Alternate, thank you.
Is there a roll call vote, please?
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan, aye.
Jen Maynard, I.
Karen Gwiazdowski Govan, aye. All right, I will pass that one along to Nancy also. All right, and then the last of the IBC topics is the recommendation to appoint Harvey Kimsey as the alternate community representative to the Tufts IBC. So this is the position that we were talking about with Alyssa, that we thought originally Alyssa was supposed to be the one, but yeah. So I know Nancy had forwarded over Harvey's information, including Tufts' recommendation, along with his resume. So just open that up to the board members. Are there any questions, comments, discussion? Dan?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think it's too bad we haven't met Harvey, but he certainly looks great on paper. Also very impressive resume as a scientist and devoted person. So, and with the recommendation from Tufts, I think we should go ahead with recommending him for the appointment. I don't know how everybody else feels, but.
Concerns.
So with that said, I guess I would like to make a motion to recommend appointing Brendan Keenan appointing Harvey Kimsey as the alternate community rep to the Tufts IBC.
Is there a second?
This is Austin Magnan. I will second that recommendation to appoint Harvey Kimsey as the alternate community rep to the Tufts IBC.
All right, roll call vote.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan, aye.
Jen Maynard, I.
Karen Gwiazdowski Govan, aye. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, while we're here, we might as well jump down to the rabies clinic topic, since we're talking Tufts also. With that, Dan, if you'd like to give an update.
Early in September, I met with a young lady by the name of Joanna, who's a second-year student at Tufts and Cummings. And she and another student are very interested in, they're offering to put together a team of a couple of veterinarians and 2 or 3 students to run a free to the town rabies clinic. They were hoping to do it this fall, but between various things going on in town, we weren't able to pull that off, but we did run it by Evan and various others, the animal safety folks, and everybody thinks it's a good idea. So we're shooting for the spring, and we penciled in Saturday morning, either 9 to 12 or 10 to 12, depending on the number of dogs, cats, and ferrets and stuff, for April 1st. and I'm not fooling, that's true. And so anyway, April 1st, and we're going to have another meeting with the various parties involved in late February, early March to set it all up. Again, the Tufts is volunteering to provide the services and the vaccine and the syringes and all that stuff. Whether the town, we may decide to have a nominal fee of $10 or $15 or $20 to offset some of the costs. It might be a maintenance person or something like that, but I think we can figure that out.
Is there going to be, I know there's some time, obviously, before we get to the
Right.
early spring. I know back in the day, when we would have these, we typically coordinated so someone from the town clerk's office was there and open for that 2-3 hour period in case people wanted to do anything regarding dog licenses, etc. So something to think about. Just,
Right.
I don't know how many people actually took it, not advantage is probably not the right word, utilized the availability of the town clerk at the same time. But just, I remember when I was helping out with Dr. Roger and stuff, that there was typically someone there from the town clerk's office available. I'm not saying it has to be, just, I remember we would do that with them. So something to think about.
Yeah, I thought that was part of the challenge with scheduling, that there were a few other things happening in the fall. Dan, the only other thing was I thought I read that, I can't tell if he's frozen. I thought I read that that there were some limited slots, like maybe 9 or something, 9 or 10 to what was available. Yeah, Dan was frozen. You know, so I don't, since we do have some time, there he is. He's back. Welcome back, Dan.
I'm back. Something spooky going on.
Karen was just saying about whether or not we were going to have, I think part of the challenge was scheduling for somebody from the clerk's office to be available so we could do some dog licensing at the same time if need be. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty sure we can find somebody there to do that and pay them, you know, so that might be factored into a fee.
Yeah.
And these folks said they'd be happy to do it twice a year.
Yeah.
I think if there's a need for it, and I think there might be with the number of people that over COVID picked up animals and might have difficulty, you know, getting this service. So.
The only other thing I was just mentioning, Dan, is when I was reading through the responses, it seemed as though they might only have space for so many people with the slots, like 10 or something like that. So since we do have some time, I don't know if we want to think through a little bit of, I don't want to say like a selection process, but it might be nice for folks that are on fixed incomes, like seniors or, you know, others in the community, to sort of have priority access to that.
Right.
So
right.
I want to consider that a little bit as we go down that path.
Yeah, and they were thinking it might be 15 or 20-minute slots, but they also, you know, want to take a temperature and look at some records and things like that. So there's a screening that goes on too. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, we could not put it out for public before we get it out to some of those folks that might be a little more needy in that sense.
Agreed. Yeah, no, more to come. I'm glad we can bring this back as a service.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, so circling back to the final topic on discussions, January, February, and March 2023 meeting dates. All right, so we have, for reference, November 14th and December 12th. Our next 2 scheduled meetings. So January, we want to avoid the 16th because that's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So that's a federal holiday and I'm sure the town hall's closed. So if we're doing the 12th of December, maybe January 9th.
The 9th works for me.
Yep, I think the 2nd is too close to the first of the year,
Yeah.
so the 9th is fine.
All right. Then February the 20th is President's Day, but that would be a a larger number of weeks away from the 9th, so we wouldn't probably be doing that. But I always take a peek at what holidays, because I know certain holidays always are on Mondays, and we meet on Mondays. So it's better to jot that down before the meeting than for everyone to be staring at their calendars, trying to figure out when there's a holiday possibly. So if we do the 9th, we could either do February 6th, which would be a 4-week slot, or the 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. Calling that out only in case anyone has Valentine's Day related plans, like a long weekend or anything. Because February seems like a long way away.
It's really not.
No,
Already almost November.
Yeah, either one works for me, 6 or 13.
want to do the 6th?
Same here.
Awesome.
Sure.
Sure.
All right. And if we do that, then March, we could also do March 6th, because February and March are identical for
Yep.
their calendars until you get to the very tail end of the month.
Yeah, that's unusual.
March 6th,
Sure.
there's no holidays to dance around, so it was a little easier. All right, so we have January 9th, February 6th, and March 6th. All right. And obviously, if we find something, we have time in case we need to alter those. We have time if something comes up that we get concerned about quorum or something. All right. I already covered flu. Tick season and mosquito season are still here. We haven't had anything remotely like a hard frost yet, so still take precautions, knock on wood. It's been a quieter year. Besides that, with monkeypox or mpox, we're still keeping an eye out. It's not like it's gone away or anything. It seems to have been a little quieter in the news and everything, but we're still keeping an eye on, any cases that are out there, et cetera. So everyone just same precautions that were mentioned. CDC has a bunch of information. Massachusetts website does also. So just keep in mind that still is also out there. That's all I had for old or new business. There's no mail or correspondence that I know of. I'll just reiterate the next two meetings, November 14th and December 12th. And that is it that we had on the agenda. Dan?
Just want to say have a happy and safe Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Go Patriots regardless of who the quarterback is. And I'm going to sneak out and grab a Powerball ticket. I don't know. I'm going to make a big gamble, $2. So, and with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
There a second?
I will second the motion to adjourn the meeting. Happy Halloween, everybody.
All right, roll call vote.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan, aye.
Jen Maynard, aye.
Karen Gwiazdowski Govan, aye. All right, thank you again, everyone.